All right, good morning, everybody. We're here with Mitzi Evans and Holly Fields to talk all about marketing during the pandemic. My name is Tammy Sweeney, and I'm happy to be here from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in Canada at TCU Place, which is in beautiful downtown Saskatoon. But more importantly, we're here to dive in with Mitzi and Holly because marketing during the pandemic has been very different than marketing before the pandemic, and we're coming back to life. So we had a conversation just a minute ago about the questions that we had written or drafted 2 months ago and how almost irrelevant they are today. So we'll explore everything that marketing, sponsorship, revenue generation, and coming back to life in the middle of a pandemic. I'm going to introduce briefly the two speakers, and then they'll tell you a little bit more about them as well. So Mitzi is the Director of Marketing and Sales at the Save Mart Center in Fresno, California, and she's been with the arena for 16 years. She also serves as the Regional Marketing Director for ASM Global, and she oversees marketing, sponsorship, public relations, and training for marketing teams for the West Coast, plus venues in Arizona, Alaska, and Canada. No small task. Mitzi's background includes television news reporting and producing, national media buying, media advertising, sales, and training. And she's also a former promotion director for the Ice Capades Harlem Globetrotters and has traveled worldwide with the show for 7 years. With us today, we also have Holly Fields, and Holly is the Director of Marketing and Sales for the Buddy Holly Hall of Performing Arts and Sciences in Lubbock, Texas. And the Buddy Holly Hall of Performing Arts opened in the middle. It is a mouthful, but they opened in January this year in the middle of a pandemic, had their first shows in January in the middle of a pandemic. And Holly looks after booking shows and marketing for tour promoters, banquet sales, social media. She's been with ASM Global for over 5 years. And prior to her stint with Buddy Holly, she worked at El Paso Live in El Paso, Texas. So we are thrilled to have both of you here today. And I'm going to turn it over to you. So let's start with you, Mitzi. What has marketing looked like for you over the past year?
I think, in reflecting back, when we first shut down in March, and at my venue, we sit on a college campus, we still have not gone back in. We've done some testing, we're doing vaccines for the college, but I have been at home, for a little over a year, as has most of my staff. So it was the unknown. We started canceling shows in maybe 2 months down the road, and then moved them into another quarter. And then when it really became apparent that this was going to last a lot longer, we shifted our focus to what can we do now to prepare for opening when we didn't know when that was going to be. And out here in California, we were pretty sure we would be the last. So the way I like to look at it is we've been given a great opportunity to get off the hamster wheel and take a look at what we do at our venues, in our market, and then with me on the regional level, and really, really dive deep into maybe reinventing ourselves in some ways. And I don't think we'll ever get that chance again. So that's been a lot of the focus with me in California because we still haven't done a show. So it's been a lot of training, and it's been a lot of motivational and, hey, we're all in the same boat. But even without the shows, it's been pretty busy.
Right. So Mitzi, very quickly, one thing that you've learned as you got off the hamster wheel, what stood out for you as you've looked at your marketing world and tried to reinvent it? What stood out for you?
I have to say, other than a shift in communications, people are talking a lot more now.
Okay.
Because we are off that hamster wheel. I have to say it's our social media practices. We're not just selling tickets and announcing shows. And we had to come up with content that was very easy from where I sit. What was tough was dodging those lands. What was politically correct. I was very hesitant early on when we were all dealing with refund issues and somewhat angry ticket holders to not do show anniversaries. Because one. And it was huge response of, I don't care, where's my money? So you had to relearn how to do it, but it was also an opportunity to, I believe, make our venue more of a person and be able to become a sustaining resource and bring entertainment news and be upbeat. That's
Right.
all the negative stuff that
I
was
think
going
we
on.
learned to balance things a little bit differently this
Yes,
year.
yes.
Holly, what about you? What does marketing look like for you over the past year?
This has been so interesting because I came from an established venue and transferred over to the Buddy Holly Hall. I was with ASM Global formerly, so I transferred. And I came here in 2020 of February, which was before everything hit. We were assuming that we were going to have, you know, the traditional opening and grand opening, and we were working towards, you know, all of those initiatives, and then everything hit. And we hadn't opened yet. So we were a new venue that had a lot of stakeholders since the community raised over $150 million to build this theater. And then all of a sudden, we're not able to open. So what we had to do is really work on our communications with all of our stakeholders, with the community, with media, with potential sponsors that we are working on, and be positive about what we're doing and keep them informed and keep working with all of the community to understand what was going on. And so it was a completely different opening than what I'd ever been involved with. I mean, I've never been involved with opening an entire venue from scratch, which was, there's a lot of work to do with that. But aside of that, you know, everyone was excited. It was really close to being completed. And so we had to maneuver through that, and we had a different kind of opening. So you kind of have to go with the flow, you know?
No doubt. And I did put your background up behind me so that people could see your
Thank you.
beautiful theater.
I'm so glad that you could get it up. I couldn't get it up, but I'm glad you can see it. That's the, we have two theaters, and that's the main theater background. So
And how
looks
big
great.
is this? How big is this theater, Holly?
It's 2,297 seats,
Okay.
and that's the main theater. And then we have a smaller Crickets theater at 415 seats. And there's all kinds of spaces in there inside for banquets and meetings and all kinds of things. So it's like a community living room is what they call it.
Very nice.
Wow.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So Holly, you talked about keeping your sponsors and your community engaged when their vision of opening was very different than what it turned out to be. So what were some of the things you did to keep them engaged during this time?
We actually did a lot of phone calls the old school way, because I think sometimes when you email, it loses the impact of what you're, you know, you kind of lose your voice in the email, the tone. So we called a lot of our stakeholders, had Zoom calls, of course, and a lot of email blasts to kind of keep them updated. Especially, we have PSL members, we have personal seat license members that had purchased their seats, and then now there's no seats to be able to sell. And then when we did finally go on sale, they couldn't have their seats because we had to socially distance. All kinds of things cropped up. So communication became paramount. And so that's what we try to keep a real open line with not only our PSLs, but we actually sold Broadway for the first time during the pandemic. Had no idea what people would do. And amazingly, they supported it. We have 1,700 Broadway subscribers to the season during a pandemic. We've changed it about 50 times and they're hanging with us. We haven't had anybody unsubscribe. So that communication and that depth of communication becomes very important so that they understand what's going on.
That's great. So it is almost like we went back to old school.
Exactly.
You know, as Mitzi said, reevaluated the purpose of what we were doing, how we were marketing our building, and the fact that it's not just about shows, that it is about who our building is and the purpose our venue serves in the community and how we can connect the community to that purpose. And then relying on some old school methods to connect to them. It's kind kind of cool and kind of,
Mhm.
rewarding and fulfilling to go back to that.
It really is. And I think when we would dialogue, you would see people, I'm sure Mitzi and you had the same thing where they'd say, are you safe? How are you doing?
Yes.
It was a very it was nice, because we really did care about each other, and our relationships actually strengthened because we were all in
Yes.
it together.
Mhm.
So I'm going to throw you both a bit of a curve because I have to roll with the conversation as it's happening instead of the pre-planned questions, but you'll be fine. You'll be pros. So, marketing we've had this opportunity, we've had this gift to take a look at what really matters and how we're connecting with people. How do you think that will change for you going forward? What do you think will be different in your marketing world? Mitzi, I'm going to turn it to you first.
I think about this a lot, and not only just with marketing, but with our jobs.
Right.
And I think we have learned that, yes, we can work from home. Could we work from home with 20 shows on sale at the same time? I believe we can, but we don't know yet.
Right.
Going back, this return to live, I think we control that. I think we go back more organized. I think we set the pace with how we respond to emails. I think we need to communicate as if it's for the first time with our promoters and their marketing reps. And I just set up a Zoom call with some of my marketing reps for a promoter out of LA, where we never would have had time to do that before. And we are going to talk about what didn't work and what works and how we can work as a team, instead of this person that you're shooting 800 emails a minute to and then not responding. So I think communication, to Holly's point, is paramount to everything we do from this moment on to opening our doors.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to respond to emails as quickly as I did before. I'm going to practice the pause, and I think we can control somewhat the pace of our work ethic going back.
I think that's really important, and we forget that when we're in the middle of launching 16 shows and then managing everything else on our plate. Holly, what about you? What will marketing look like for you moving forward?
It's been interesting since we are putting so many shows on sale here in Lubbock, Texas. I'm working with new promoters, not new promoter groups, but their reps. And we're dialoguing and we're listening to each other. And we have to be patient with each other because we all are getting, as one person told me, we're getting our sea legs back. It was so true because we're all of a sudden the floodgates on my end have opened. And so as we move forward, I like keeping that real personal touch. And in fact, I'm meeting with some promoters today, have a meeting tomorrow. And so we're having a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of face-to-face, which is nice, not just to be on the phone, but seeing and dialoguing and strategizing together on our plans. And so I think this will hold going forward. I really do. And I like it.
Good. And so you have both been fortunate enough to announce some new events. Holly, you've been having events. Mitzi, you haven't had an event yet, correct? But you've just launched.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's, and for some of us in our venue as well, we haven't been able to launch yet. So given what you've just gone through, and Mitzi, wrap your head around the last few days when you had how many shows to launch?
Well, we just launched our first new event that will happen in 2021.
Okay, so put your head around that for people that aren't there yet. We're almost there. And what advice can you give us when we're about to launch that show for the first time in a year, potentially for some?
Well, I've always believed that we're not going to tiptoe back into this, that it's going to be a full sprint.
I don't think we tiptoe into anything in this
No,
world.
we don't. I was kind of hoping we would, but I gave up on that. So this show that we launched, we announced yesterday, it goes on sale Friday. So dusting off the cobwebs of, oh my gosh, I can't remember how to do that aside, this came down very fast and furious, which is the standard in our business. But on this one, I don't believe they were planning on actually launching this quickly. We just got the announcement, I think within the last 2 weeks, that California was going to completely open on June 15th. That came out of the blue. So the conversations with booking agents has increased, as you can imagine, tenfold. And everybody wants a piece of our booking calendar. Keep in mind, we still don't know if we're going to have capacity restrictions. Even though they said there won't be, we probably will.
So how are you handling that marketing message? You're marketing it as if it's a full capacity show, correct?
This is a tough one. So we still have, I believe it's 7 events between August and the end of the year that went on sale prior to the pandemic at Full House. And we have not moved those. We moved a ton of other shows, which we knew were not going to happen.
Right.
We left these alone, but they're quiet. You're not advertising them. We're not Facebooking them. It's quiet, but
Okay.
this is a new one. So we don't know yet. We don't know if they're going to come back, if we're going to have a surge, if they're going to come back and say, yeah, you can only do 25%. We had to make the decision to go on sale, or the promoter made the decision, go on sale, Full House, with both parties understanding if something happens, we need to move it.
Right.
We're not going to go back and rescale the house.
Okay.
I don't see that happening.
Holly, what about for you in your world? How has that been for you? Because you almost didn't really stop. Once you opened, you've been running shows all the way through.
We have. What's really interesting is we have a lot of shows almost, believe it or not, we're working with LISD, Lubbock Independent School District, which is great. And we are very careful with our guidelines, our Venue Shield safe guidelines. So we started at 50% with social distancing, with masks, hitting all those hot spots. And we on the contact, hitting those very frequently on cleanliness standards, signage, press, website. We really focused on safety, and we're still focusing on safety. And we started at 50% with social distancing, and it worked out well. The school kids were able to do some of their performances with their families, being able to see them. And ironically, that's kind of how we launched with our local community groups, which was wonderful because they're really our stakeholders. So it worked out well. But then we actually did go into the live shows, and we sold a comedian. We sold him out, and then we decided to add a second show, and that was close to selling out. We have one on sale right now that's just about sold out, and we just put it on sale last week. So I'm seeing a very big surge, as Mitzi is talking about, of people wanting to come back. We are still social distancing the house. Okay. We are still hitting all those points. We're trying to do it as contact free as possible, and stressing to the customer, we are, this is what we're doing, and this is what you can expect when you come into the theater. And the whole thing is about safety. And we do let our clients know it may change.
Right.
We may not be able to do 100% or 50% or 75%. That's the hardest part. And so a lot of the shows that I've been seeing are more scaled down. They're not the big tours, obviously, that have a lot of travel time. They're able to they don't have as much overhead. So we're starting with those, but the other ones are already coming on board that are the bigger shows. And we are actually putting those on sale right now. We have quite a few. And so we're determining, is it at 50%? Is it at 75%? And we have it scaled all kinds of different ways with them understanding it could change.
And so how do you know where to start if you are, because you don't know necessarily what the regulations or restrictions or what the consumer confidence will be like, what the numbers will be like. So where do you start your scaling? Did you start at 100%? Did you start at 50?
We started at 50% with social distancing, which is a lot less than 50%.
Right.
You know, it's not a true 50%, half the house number. That's 50% plus social distancing. So you seat them in pods, and
Okay.
you have spaces in between and rows left open. And, you know, really being careful. You know, we didn't have our food in our concessions. We really, even on some of the first shows, we didn't have anything but bottled water. We just didn't want a lot of that to start with, but now we're adding those things in.
Right.
But it's evolving and changing, and we're still watching. We don't know the future.
Right.
So we're letting our promoters and tours know that this is where we're at now. This is where we think we might be this far down the road, but we don't have a crystal ball. It could change.
Right.
And so they're aware.
And that's an important message, back to one of your earlier comments, just about the importance of that communication, both with the promoter and the tour and our clients, our guests that have bought tickets. And it sounds like for both of you that your marketing message has become much bigger than just about the show.
That's the biggest hurdle for us when we go back.
Tell me more, Mitzi. What are you thinking? Why is it a hurdle, and what's now included in your marketing that maybe wasn't before?
We're still early on, so some of this I have not done yet, but will do. We have taken the stance of full disclosure to our public. And that takes it's going to take a tremendous amount of communication with our guest services, the kids that just work the events. We have plans and action to really train them on our ASM Global Venue Shield message, but how to answer the questions that the public might ask. So one thing that both Holly and I have been fortunate enough is we have so many venues under our ASM Global umbrella that are all opening at different times. So we have such strong communication within the company of what worked, what didn't work, but more importantly, what curves did you not anticipate that were thrown at you, and how did you handle it?
Right.
We have a whole list of questions that asked that we never even dreamed they would, and how to answer it. So marketing moving forward is going to be threefold. It's going to be the show. It's going to be we're safe to come back to. And then we've got a third one added in is this show going to cancel? After we launched yesterday, that was the #1 comment on my Facebook page.
Right.
And our stance is full disclosure. And we're saying we don't know. We have to start somewhere. But if you buy your ticket and the show gets moved, if you can't make the new date, we'll refund. Over and over and over again, just full disclosure. And it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'll find out.
And it's almost like it's less about dollars and cents now. And it'll come back to that. And dollars and cents are important. Mm-hmm. Profit and loss is important. But restoring consumer confidence, there's no price tag on that. No. And we have to do that before we can start to rebuild the other areas of our business.
And we have to do it right the first time we open our doors.
Absolutely. Holly, what about in your world? So tell me a little bit about how marketing has changed, and that messaging is more about just than the show.
It definitely, just last week, and we've been open for a while. We've been open since January in one capacity or another, but just last week I had a reporter come through and actually go through, on camera, how we do our entry into the venue. And so she went through the magnetometer. She got her temperature checked, because we do temperature checks. People want to know what to expect. You can write it out, but the visual media, the reporter really wanted to go through the process and look at our bag policy. They literally asked a lot of questions about it, and we were ready for that. We have a policy, and we are sticking with it. And I tell her it's going to be in place until it's not. We'll be updating you, but we're going to keep it the same way. And so she had actually, reported that on the news and a lot of other reporters have called, but she actually went through the process. And this is just a week ago. The public's wanting to know, what are we doing in our venue? What do they expect to keep them safe? Some people don't want to wear the masks.
Right.
That's a challenge. We've actually even asked our artists, if we're having an issue with that, they ask them, please put on your mask, for everybody. This is the rules of the venue. And I see people follow it. So we've gotten creative with how we enforce those rules. And the artist becomes actually involved in that process.
That's fantastic.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And it's so important to let the public know prior. We're going to be doing a thing called Street to Seat. And it's getting all of our media, our disc jockeys, our sponsors, and doing a little re-grand opening before the public and walking them through everything, including prepackaged food at the concessions and going down to a seat and all of the different elements, because it's going to be different. But the most important thing, again, we keep going back to that communication. We have to let people know. And it can't be in a written text. It has to be visuals. And the best thing you can do is get your local personalities to talk about it and somewhat endorse it.
Right.
What marketing is.
All right. So we've got time for one more question. And, but what we've heard, I'm going to say there's two things I've heard here. I've heard that the marketing world is changing in many ways and that the message is changing. But I've also heard that it's really not, because it is all still about connecting and communicating with your world, whether it's promoters or the public or your guests coming in. But what's the biggest challenge you see moving forward in this world? So we've got some guests that are going to be comfortable and some that aren't. We've got promoters that are having to reschedule and adjust scales, and all these things are just challenges. So what are the biggest challenges you see facing our marketing world going forward? Holly, let me start with you. Sorry, Mitzi.
Oh, that's okay.
Go ahead, Holly.
Some of the biggest challenges I'm seeing are the budgets are smaller. I mean, people have less. They're starting out with less because they've been hit pretty hard, the promoters, the tours. And so one of the challenges that I've been seeing is, we have to do more with less and broaden our scope of what we do. Like I do sponsorships and I do lots of things that maybe I wouldn't have done before, but this is what we're doing now to be able to maneuver and get back and to get it back on track. And so actually I've enjoyed the diversity of all the things that we get to do. I think it's a really great opportunity to broaden your skills and get out there and listen and talk to the community. So I like learning about all the different aspects that maybe I did a little bit, but didn't do it as much as I do now. It's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity to kind of put all the pieces together. So now when I'm selling a sponsorship, I'm also delivering it. I worked with a sponsorship person in my last venue, but now I am the sponsorship person. So I know exactly what I need to do and what I can and can't do. So that's kind of a neat development that came out of this, is we are doing more with less. And I think that eventually it'll get back on track, but it's a way to gain skills.
Absolutely. And I think for those of us that haven't been hands-on in the marketing world, but in the last year, we've certainly had to be. So that's exciting as well. Mitzi, what about you? Biggest challenge for people moving forward?
I think it's, again, communication and getting our venue voice, getting people comfortable to ask us questions, and we have to respond. So when we open our doors, we can't go back to our old ways where we're too busy. The most important thing are the people coming into our buildings for the first couple of events, because they will become the voice of the venue. They are going to be doing our testimonials, and we have to super serve them. And to Holly's point, in our downtime now, we are going to be facing tough marketing budgets. I've seen something happen in my community that I think is happening everywhere. Everybody wants to know when we're open. Everybody wants to go back to concerts. So I now have the time, again, practicing the pause I get to go out and connect with community organizations that want to be involved in our venue opening up. So I've created these big e-blast lists and places to contest. I've got great programs going with Chamber of Commerce this year. I never had the time to set that up before, but they're going to be paramount in me being able to say to my promoter, I know your budgets are small. I have this outreach for you. Let's make it work.
That's a really great thing that I hope continues as we move forward. It's very collaborative, it's very engaging for the community, and I think it will bring a whole new element to our shows and events that are in our venues. So I hope that that continues on all fronts.
Me too, grassroots, it's all about.
Absolutely, yes. So we're going to bring this portion of the session to a close, and then we'll open the floor to Q&A questions live on the day. So thank you both very much for participating, and we'll open the floor to questions.
Thank you.
Thanks.